This is Anatole, and welcome to my review of Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 6, titled The Iron Throne. It scored 4.3 on IMDb, just double checking right now, yes, 4.3, which is the lowest score it has received. That's the lowest score any episode in any season of Game of Thrones has received on IMDb. And in fact, over 73 episodes, the 5 worst scores have all been from this season, season number 8. But I, surprisingly, am not here to criticize the show in this review. I want to talk about something that I thought was a better aspect of the show. In fact, I think it was well done, but there may be some of those who disagree with me. But I want to talk about one of the thematic elements of the show. The show had, I want to say three thematic elements. One was the magic and fate. One was the relationship between the characters and a character study. And the third was the political, which is one way that set it apart from other fantasy series, the strong focus on political intrigue. And I think at the end, whether you agree that Bran the Broken should have become king, I think that the thematic element was the most fleshed out of the three. And while thinking about this last episode, it occurred to me, and this was reinforced by there was a callback in this episode to a line earlier from the series, and that is that love is the death of duty, to which Tyrion replied that sometimes duty is the death of love. And it was that got me thinking that the reason that this gets repeated is it's a major thematic element to the show. And I began to think about, are there characters who you could claim that had this conflict between love and duty? And the answer is yes. Jon Snow had it many times. He had it with Ygritte, and then he had it with Daenerys. And the whole episode, the whole show, more or less, hinged upon which way Jon was going to decide. But then I think you could also argue the opposite, that duty, the following duty was the death of love. So those who served under tyrants, because that was their duty, without regard to the feelings and not acting upon that emotion, that realization that their king is a tyrant, and just being part of the wheel. That was also another key concept of the show, breaking the wheel, that there had to be more to life, to justice, than just being dutiful. And then that's what led me to thinking about Plato, because Plato had the idea that the soul consisted of 3 parts. And here I'm going to read a summary of this from artofmanliness.com. You take it where you can get it. And to quote from that website, Plato argued that you could think of the human soul as a charioteer on a chariot, and he's steering 2 horses. He's steering a black horse and a white horse. And that is all symbolic. So the chariot, the charioteer, and the white and dark horses symbolize the soul, and the charioteer being the soul, and its 3 main components. The charioteer represents man's reason. The dark horse is his appetites, and the white horse is his thumos, which you can argue is the spirit. So that gets back to the argument about love is the death of duty, duty is the death of love. You can only have the both of them in conjunction when you have spirit. And I think that's kind of where George R.R. Martin I think it's George R.R. Martin told D.B. Weiss and David Benioff what the end of the story was going to be in regards to the main characters, and Bran is certainly one of those. And someone on YouTube pointed out that, some point a few years ago, that George R.R. Martin's story editor only knew the fate of one character. So that would imply that the editor knew who would take the throne. So we can argue that if Bran is the one who takes the throne in the series, then he's probably going to be the one who takes the throne in the book. And so how does Bran unite these different impulses of spirit, appetite, or what we could also call love, and duty. And many times he says that he doesn't want to be Lord. He doesn't want to be Lord, but he realizes that Tyrion's argument is correct. That the only one that will be able to rule wisely and fairly is going to be Bran, and he is more or less going to leave the adjudication of his law, of his dictates, to a small group of the best and the brightest, led by Tyrion, more or less. And Plato's argument extends more than just this Plato metaphor extends more than just the idea of duty and love. There's also the political element. That's what I first thought of. And that political element in Plato's Republic, Plato talks about how democracy is a bad form of government, and that you need to have rule by a philosopher king and a philosopher king class. And so for my argument about the Republic, I'm going to draw from philosophynow.org just a brief paragraph, see here, so that no one can claim I'm stealing intellectual property. It's just a brief preface of their paper. In Plato's ideal state, there are three major classes which correspond to the three parts of the soul. There are the guardians, who are the philosophers and govern the city. So this would be Bran and the lords of Westeros, and the king's council headed by Tyrion. Then there are the auxiliaries, who are the soldiers that defend the city, and then the lowest class comprises the producers, the farmers, the artisans, all the people you need to make the city run. And so I wanted to make sure I'm not wigging out here. I'm not seeing things or in applying my own interpretation to the story. I went online to see, is there anyone else who spotted this? And I am going to link to this website. It's the name of in the show notes. The name of the website is inverse.com, and the title is Game of Thrones Plato reference means the big finale twist was inevitable. The philosophy geek in me is freaking out. And I'm going to read from here a little bit about the Plato's cave, which also ties into the conception of truth and the hero's journey that Bran had to make. So the allegory of the cave, this is a direct quote from the website. And again, I'm going to link to it, and I hope they don't mind. If you watch this, please take this in the spirit of the academic sharing that I hope it is, and I hope you appreciate my applying your ideas to this conversation about Game of Thrones. The allegory of the cave is an excerpt from Plato's book, The Republic. The story begins with prisoners who are born and raised in the cave. And now this is my own interpretation. The prisoners in the cave, they can't see their back, the entrance of the cave. Their back is to that entrance, where the light and the outside world is. But because they can see the light from the outside world, as they sit with their back to the cave, they can see the shadows on the wall from the outside world. And imagining that these people have spent their lives in a cave, for them, what they see on the wall is the outside world. They have no other frame of reference. It is not a representation of the outside world. It is the outside world as it exists. And so the philosopher king is going to be the one who can leave the cave, see the world as it truly is, return to the cave, and share this knowledge with the people still stuck in the cave. That is what Joseph Campbell described as the hero's journey complete. And the hero's journey is a hero will leave their home, undertake some mythic journey where they learn some new piece of information, and return to their origin to share it with the people who are ignorant of this new knowledge the hero has gained. So the escaped prisoner, now I'm returning to quoting this website, and again the website is inverse.com. The escaped prisoner is an analogy for the enlightened person who understands the true nature of the world and is best fit to rule. Their understanding of truth better enables them to make moral decisions and rule justly over their people. And we can see, now that we think about it, that Bran, just talking to the three-eyed raven and touching the weird tree, that was his journey into, really journey out from the cave. He made a literal journey into a cave. And in his literal journey into a cave, he was the one who completed the journey from outside the cave and then came back into the cave when he left the cave, very convoluted, I know, intentionally, to share with the world his knowledge of truth and justice, which is something that that Westeros, and because Westeros is a stand-in for our world in some ways, was lacking before. The goal of the Republic, now I'm returning to a quote from inverse.com. The goal of the Republic is to describe the most ideal political state, a society ruled by elected officials. According to Plato, the perfect rulers, aka the philosopher kings, are people who don't want to rule but are naturally good at it. And we saw in season 2, Bran made an effort to be the king of Westeros whenever else was gone. And I think that was another one of those moments where the story was trying to tell us where it was going to go eventually, with Bran being the one to be the ruler of Westeros. Returning to inverse.com, this ensures those who are best fit to rule aren't driven by power, fame, or wealth. Rather, they rule because they excel as leaders and genuinely care for the welfare of their people. And in this part, Bran is lacking, at least as we've seen him, but he has the council that he's chosen to rule in his stead, who we can assume do care about the people. If you watch the political leaders of Westeros pick Bran as their new king in the Game of Thrones finale, you can probably guess where this is headed, and that is that Westeros is now a republic of Platonic ideal, more or less. And here the author of Inverse quotes from Plato's Republic, Book 7, "The life of true philosophy," and this is Plato, "the life of true philosophy is the only one that looks down upon offices of state, and access to power must be confined to men who are not in love with it, otherwise rivals will start fighting." So this, I thought, is an interesting aspect to the political aspect of the story, and I think more successfully realized than other aspects. I think the magic aspect of the story has been woeful from the beginning, and because the Night King is part of that, all the criticisms people have about how the White Walkers and the undead have always just been backdrop to the story, never fully fleshed out, whether they were meant to be literal undead or more of a metaphor for nature, and death is the part of nature. It was just never fully realized for many people, and because the Night King was meant to be a big bad. The final scene where Arya is the one who defeats the Night King left many people unsatisfied. And I would argue if Bran was supposed to be the hero of the story, he should have been the one to impart the wisdom that was needed to defeat the Night King. Instead of simply being bait to the Night King, his big moment should have been when he talked with Theon and was able to give Theon that courage to make that charge to the Night King. It should not have been a simple suicide charge. Bran should have imparted some knowledge to Theon that would have enabled his attack to weaken the Night King, if not destroy him completely. So even if there was someone else to deliver the final blow, we could have seen that Bran would be we could see the effect that Bran as a ruler, a leader, would have on others, that his words and his knowledge could inspire others to take actions that would be for the betterment of all of us, that he could inspire Theon to sacrifice his life, not as a simple stalling technique, but to be the one that would weaken the Night King and allow Arya to deliver the final blow. This was a missed opportunity, one of many from the showrunners in this season. So that was my big take I felt that I could share. They would be different from the season recaps and the criticisms of the final episode, or even the defenses of the writing of the final episode. And I'm going to be transparent. I could have made this video just exploring this aspect without discussing how I felt about the episode, but I felt I should go on record. I enjoyed it. I saw the flaws. I would give it a 7 out of 10, and if you watch any of my reviews, I never give a number rating, because for me criticism is more than that. It's about trying to bring an aspect of the work of art out that maybe other people had not noticed, so that that could add to their awareness and appreciation of it. For me, it's not treating the art as commodity. A lot of reviews that give that number are treating it as a commodity. Is it going to be something that's worth acquiring or not acquiring? And that does have its role. There are critics who do that, and there are people who look to criticism for that, but I'm trying to go for a different kind of criticism. But I wanted to go on record so I could be fully transparent, because a large part of people's reaction to the season is, are you on the side of it sucked, or are you on the side of I liked it? And I think that people who say it sucked are being overly critical. So without getting into that argument, I just want to say I liked it. I didn't love it, and I had problems with it, but I enjoyed it more than I thought. And if you've watched the other reviews in this series of the season, you know I have had some problems with the season. I did like the first 2 episodes. I thought the second episode is the best one of the season, but then beginning with episode 3 and then really into 4 and 5, I had major problems with it, but I found other things to talk about, because I'm trying to do criticism that's more than just raving or ranting. But I did want to go on the record as saying that I liked the episode. Well, that's it for now. So that's the end of the road. It's a wrap, and at the end, I really loved Game of Thrones. I really wish that the last 2 seasons, I liked season 6. There are flaws, but I like season 6. I really wish the last 2 seasons could have been a lot better. Better writing, better development of character instead of plot at the expense of character, better plotting, but that's water under the bridge. I think that when we talk about the all-time great fantasy series, Game of Thrones will always have to be mentioned. When we talk about the all-time great series, now it's in contention, unfortunately. These last 2 seasons have ruined the overall impression of the show, unfortunately. But if we were to talk about top 100, it's in without a doubt. Well, if you want to share your thoughts about the series as a whole, the season, or this episode, feel free to comment. If you agree with what I said, if you disagree, but I was able to bring out something you hadn't considered, then please like it, because that's what I'm trying to do. You can agree or disagree with me. I just hope that what I say brings out something that you hadn't considered before, and so helps you appreciate some angle of it, if not all of it. If it's something you dislike, I really hope that I can bring out something that you can agree was well done or worth talking about. That's all for now then, people. Take care, people. The people. Democracy. That's all for now. That's all for now. Take care and be well. And again, Dracarys.